Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Urology session. It's my pleasure to share with Simona. There are a couple of changes in the program that you will discover as we go along. So we call the very first presentation, which will be three-dimensional versus two-dimensional laparoscopic spinoplasty injection. From the team of the University of Dublin, Christina Tortable.
Good afternoon. So, three-dimensional laparoscopic devices were designed to facilitate us the two-dimensional technical difficulties that we find in 2D. So we must know the technical improvements that really bring us. For this reason, we have carried out a study of 27 children who were undergone laparoscopic undergone pyeloplasty. We divided the surgery in 5 steps: dissection of the UPA, the posterior uteropelvic anastomosis, the catheter placement, the anterior uteropelvic anastomosis, and the pelvic anastomosis. And we measure the time we spent on each step, the complication, and hospitalization. So we operated this implantation with a mean age of 10 months and a weight of 9.6 kilos. 15 were developed in 3D and 14 in 2D. The right kidney were operated in 8 times by 3D, and 5 on the left kidney. And in 2D, 8 were in the right side and 6 on the left. So there was no difference between the groups in age, weight, or affected site. So this table shows us the time we spent in every step of the surgery. We just can see the improvement of the time in the 3D laparoscopy. This improvement is statistically significant in 3 of the 5 parts of the surgery: the dissection, the catheter placement, and the anterior uteropelvic anastomosis, but also in the overall surgery. So there were no intraoperative or post-operative complications in any group, and the hospital stay was similar. So, based on our finding, this is our final comment. 3D laparoscopic improved the operative time, mainly the dissection, the catheter placement, and the anterior uteropelvic anastomosis. But if you are well trained in 2D, there are no difference in complications and hospital stay between 2D and 3D.
Very quick. We have time for one question for each presentation, so the paper is open for one question. This is a question I just asked shortly. Were the surgeons trained in 3D surgery before having this kind of surgery? The surgeons that were performing 3D pyeloplasty on 3D, were they trained on 3D or it was just the first experience?
The surgery we just performed 2D stuff in our hospital, and we are well trained in 2D, but now we have a new 3D device, so we started making the 3D surgery. And for us, we had the thing that it was really faster than in 2D, but we want to improve that, and it's really faster for us.
Thanks a lot. We move to the next presentation. Maria Espolino from Naples, Italy. Robot-assisted extracerebral urethral implantation in children with simple and complex urethral anatomy and multicenter study.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to everybody. I have nothing to disclose. And over the last few years, robot-assisted extravesical ureteral implantation has emerged as a valid minimum invasive alternative to conventional laparoscopy or open surgery. But further evidence is needed to establish it as the legal standard for surgical management of pediatric vesicoureteric reflux, especially in patients with the complex ureter anatomy. So our study aimed to demonstrate the hypothesis that REVOR is safe and effective in both simple and complex ureter anatomy. For this reason, the medical records of all pediatric patients with VUR who underwent REVOR in 5 different pediatric surgical centers over a 5-year period were retrospectively analyzed and reviewed. Patients were grouped according to the ureter anatomy, G1 with the simple anatomy and G2 with complex anatomy, and the 2 groups were compared regarding patient characteristics, surgical results, and the postoperative outcomes. An overall number of 57 patients underwent REVOR in the study period were enrolled in the present study. G1 included 39 patients receiving simple REVOR, G2 18 patients undergoing complex REVOR. Patients receiving complex REVOR had previous failed endoscopic injection of bulking agent, complete ureteral duplication, paraureteral diverticulum, and ectopic megaureter requiring dismembering. Regarding the operative technique, this was the patient position, supine on the operative table with 4 trocars 3.8mm ports, robotic ports, and 1 5mm assistant port. The ureter is dissected both proximally and distally till to the bladder entry. Particular attention has to be paid during ureter dissection to relationship with vas deferens in boys and uterine vascularization in female. And it is important also to create an adequate peritoneal window, especially in girls, behind the large ligament of the uterus, in order to allow an easy passage of the ureter. In patients needing ureteral dismembering, the ureter is mobilized as distally as possible to the bladder entry, then is suture ligated using a 2-0 resorbable suture, and then disconnected from the bladder. In cases with paraureteral diverticulum, the ureter is mobilized until the point at which it seems to enter the diverticulum. Then is suture ligated, as in the previous case, and transected. And after transection, the base of the diverticulum may be also secured using and placing an endoloop. In very large ureters, ureteral tapering may be performed over the guide of a 12 French catheter. Then the detrusor muscle is incised in a layered fashion until the bladder mucosa is seen pouching out to create flaps for ureteral tunneling. And in dismembered cases, a ureteral cystostomy anastomosis is created, ensuring that the double J stent is inserted into the bladder before completing the anastomosis. Finally, the ureter is reimplanted into the detrusor tunnel using a top-down approach with the 4 stitch placed at the apex of the tunnel in order to elevate the ureter and avoid direct excessive ureteral manipulation, and a subsequent series of 2-3 resorbable stitches to close the tunnel. And this is the final aspect of unilateral or bilateral reimplantation. Regarding the results, the surgery was significantly faster in simple cases in both unilateral and bilateral procedures, and surgical success defined as VUR resolution on postoperative VCUG was similar in both groups, as well as VUR persistence and contralateral VUR rates. Regarding postoperative complication, the incidence of urinary retention was significantly higher in simple cases, but all episodes occurred in patients receiving bilateral procedures. And in conclusion, our results confirm that REVO was safe and effective for surgical management of pediatric UR with both simple and complex ureter anatomy. Management of complex cases only required a slightly longer operative time, but without differences in postoperative morbidity and surgical success rates. See you in Sorrento next year with the first joint meeting, IPEG and ESPES, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Maria, for this nice presentation. Questions or comments from the floor? Then, if I may, as you know, I love those procedures, but I don't have a robot, and it still works exactly the same. Really, data that is better for the patient. That using the robot is better for the patient than using regular laparoscopy.
I think that is better for the patient, but also for the surgeon, especially in bilateral procedures. With laparoscopy, the economics for the surgeon is so heavy, but it is incredible and better, so much better for the surgeon.
Thank you very much.
We move to the next presentation, which is from Melania Ceruto from Naples. Laparoscopic and remote-assisted ureterocalcoscopy for the treatment of primary and recurrent pelvic junction obstruction in children, a multi-center report.
Thank you for the introduction. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Ureterocalcoscopy has been described as an alternative technique to understand this member choreography for the management of selected fluids, such as GNT intravenous pelvis, UPJ associated with anatomical anomalies such as short kidney or marrow-dedicated or recurrent UPJ. As we already know, ureterocalcoscopy involves the excision of the aneuploidic penis lower throat parenchyma and the anastomosis of the dismembered ureter directly to the lower throat calyx. Robot-assisted laparoscopic ureterocalcoscopy has been reported as a viable and technically feasible treatment option for patients with recurrent UPJO or with difficult intrarenal pelvis, and the efficacy of ureterocalcoscopy has been demonstrated largely in the adult literature. However, very few small case series of ureterocalcoscopy used in both laparoscopic and robot-assisted approach have been reported in pediatric population. So the study aimed to assess the outcome of laparoscopic ureterocalcoscopy and the robot-assisted laparoscopic ureterocalcoscopy in children with UPJO. So we retrospectively analyzed data of 15 patients who received laparoscopic and robotic ureterocalcoscopy in 5 international pediatric surgery units over a 5-year period. Specific inclusion criteria were age up than 3 years and weight up than 20 kilos for robot-assisted surgery, and age up than 1 year and weight up than 10 kilos for laparoscopic approach. All patients underwent minimally invasive transperitoneal ureterocalcoscopy, and both procedures followed the same surgical step. So after the detection of the colon, the ureter was mobilized and located at the level of the pelvis of the crossing vessels and spatulated for at least 1 centimeter before the anastomosis. Then we proceed with the incision of the renal parenchyma, the creation of a tension-free anastomosis between the spatulated proximal ureter and the lower throat calyx after the position of the J stent. As for the patient characteristics, the median patient age was about 10 years. 7 children underwent primary procedure and 8 of them underwent recurrent UPJO. The median operative time was quite similar between the 2 procedures, but the surgical success rate was about 100%. And comparing the 2 different approaches, no significant difference were found between the 2 different approaches regarding operative time and post-operative complication. Conversely, the median anatomic time was significantly shorter in robotic-assisted procedure compared to laparoscopic one. So, in conclusion, we can say that laparoscopic and robotic ureteral calicostomy appear safe and effective approaches for UPJ repair in children and report excellent outcomes as redo or transit procedure as well. Robotics provide a shorter anatomic time, but is indicated in older children. The choice of one approach or another remain mainly dependent on the surgeon's preference and obviously the robot. Hope to see you soon in Naples with our next courses, and thank you for your attention.
Thanks for the interesting presentation, which will solve problems in we have recurrent UPJ obstruction with stuck with the scars. So, is there any question?
Then we will move on
Thanks a lot.
to the next presentation. Thank you very much. And calling Dr. Ruben Altis from the Government endoscopy urinary diversion as initial treatment in obstructive ectopic urology.
Good afternoon, we have many pleasures. We propose endoscopic urinary diversion as initial management of symptomatic obstructive ectopic urology in children. The aim of this technique is to create a temporary transurethral ureteral diversion to reduce ureteral obstruction until definitive surgery is done months later. We report our experience with this approach, analyzing the results and outcomes in the patients. 23 obstructive ectopic ureters were treated at our institution between 2006 and 2017. 20 of them were successfully initially treated by this endoscopic urinary diversion. However, this procedure was not feasible in 3 patients. The presumptive diagnosis of obstructive ectopic ureter was established obtaining those sonographic images, radiant hysterography, and matrilineal scan. In named patients, a magnetic resonance was necessary to achieve the diagnosis. Ureteral ectopia was always confirmed as cystoscopy, and it was indicated in all of the patients with a high perioperative suspicion of ureteral ectopia with an ureteral hydronephrosis worsening during follow-up, and at least 2 breeding frogs urinary tract infections despite antibiotic prophylaxis. We performed cystoscopy with a 9.5 cystoscope. When the ectopic meatus is not found, bladder is punctured where the ectopic ureter protrudes with a 3 French needle and the cystoscopic vision and ultrasound guidance. If urine output is observed, we then introduce contrast into the ureter and performing a retrograde ureterobiography, confirming that we are inside the ectopic ureter. Here you can see the fluoroscopic control. After that, a guide wire is passed to the ureter, followed by a high-pressure balloon catheter, which is inflated to its nominal pressure of 14-15 atmospheres, creating the neonatus. Finally, once the neonatus is created, we place the LV stem, which is removed 1 month later. In the other side, if the ectopic meatus is found on the posterior urethra, we perform a ureteral opening with monopolar electrocautery to create a new ureteral opening into the bladder. This intravesicalization procedure is like an routine of this ureteral ectopia, and this new ureteral outlet should be on the bladder or above to ensure continence in the future, but away from the trachea to avoid injuring the lower pole, ipsilateral ureter, or the contralateral ureter. Our protocol includes clinical review with an ultrasound every 3 months, matrilineal scan and radiant hysterography at 6 per 8 months. The clinical treatment is further proposed after 1 year of life in accordance with the parents attending to the presence of symptoms and renal function. Median age at treatment was 3.2 months, with mean operating time of 27.5 minutes on hospital stay of 1 day. Tumour was performed in 7 cases with intervesicalization, surgery 13, with a minimum follow-up time of 6.5 years. Renal function was preserved in all cases if present, and we observed post-operative significant differences in highly necrosis grade and lipidemia. Complications were 7 urinary tract infections and 1 tumor stenosis that was successfully treated with a new balloon dilatation. Secondary vesicular reflux was found in 15 of the 20 cases treated, but almost were asymptomatic. In these secondary reflux cases, we offered a single stent procedure that was done in 13 of them. Finally, as a definitive treatments, we have done 4 hysterectomies, 1 uterine implantation, and 3 uterostomies. The remaining 11 patients maintained asymptomatic during follow-up with progressive improvement of the uterine hydronephrosis and ultrasound, so no more definitive treatments have been needed today. So in conclusion, we can say that this endoscopic urinary diversion has been a flexible, safe, and invasive technique in the initial management of symptomatic obstructive ectopic ureters. It allows inadequate urethral drainage until definitive surgery is proposed months later. It doesn't invalidate future definitive treatments and other surgical options in case of failure. Thanks for your attention.
The floor is open for question. One question?
Is it possible to use a cold knife, or is it better than this electric knife?
Well, thanks for your question. We don't have experience with full knife, but we have experience with laser. So almost laser or electrocautery are safe procedures, and perhaps if you feel more confident with laser or with full knife, you can try. But we, at the beginning of the first case, we were more confident with electrocautery. Some of them we have done with the laser, but I think it's easier with electrocautery or laser than full knife.
I think my co-chair had also questions and concerns.
Thanks for the presentation. I think that I would be a little bit concerned about the bladder neck. So my question is, what about considering also internal diversion, as it was described by Matthew Keither, which is a urethral bladder refluxing and anastomosis in such case?
Again, I understand your question. You have told me about the urethral outlet in the bladder neck.
Yes.
Okay, we didn't have today. All patients are older than 4 years old. Not a patient older than 4 years old, and all are continent urethral. We didn't have any problem contributing their viscera or incontinence in children. The main complication of this technique is the secondary vesicular reflux. True, but it's a soft complication because it was almost asymptomatic in only symptom were present in 6 patients, and it's a easy procedure to solve. However, the aim of this procedure is a temporary, in this case internal urinary diversion, instead of doing external ureterostomy or a more difficult procedure with a huge ureter in a small bladder. So we have seen in the follow-up that a big group of patients have been asymptomatic, but the main idea of this procedure is to relieve urethral obstruction, not to be a definitive treatment.
Excellent. Any further questions? Good. So we can move to the next presentation. Surgically modified animal tissue model of UPJO in children, high fidelity model for surgical simulation and training. Dr. Fayez Jala from Switzerland.
Dear colleagues, dear Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to present an animal tissue model for UPGO in children. One of the authors has to disclose an educational grant from Pastor to us. First question is why surgical simulation? And some of the talks we heard today and yesterday already gave the answers to that. The key for performing complex minimally invasive surgery is laparoscopic suturing. And as our colleague from Florida showed us, you can train it. All in all, it's very important for patient safety that you flatten the learning curve outside the OR. So there is definitely demand for surgical simulation also of laparoscopic phalloplasty in children. If you have a look at the literature, there are some existing models. While live animal models have their advantage, they're in conflict with Animal Welfare Act and also not suitable for daily training. While cadaver models are more suitable for daily training, they certainly lack anatomical relations or there need to be sutures in place to create the pathology that later hinder surgical simulation. With all these limitations in mind, we tried to create a new model that is feasible for everyday training, has realistic anatomical relations while preserving pediatric dimensions. And that's why we connected a chicken scrub to piglet's kidney, and that's shown in the next few pictures. So first of all, the identification of the esophagus, identification of the crop, ligation, resection, and fixation of the crop to the piglet's kidney. And after approximately 10 minutes of preparation, you'll get the end result. All authors were pleased with the surgical simulation of this model, and therefore we conclude this model provides a realistic simulation-based training that helps flattening the learning curve, is feasible for everyday training, and allows for avoidance of technical errors and complications. Thank you, and now I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. Very inventive puzzle. Any questions? Any other recipe maybe for the next cooking style? Okay, thank you very much. And we'll call, I think, the last communication of the session from Barcelona, Spain. Pop-off mechanism as protective factors for renal kidney disease in pediatric patients with posterior urethral valves. Clara Massaguer.
Okay, as you all know, chronic kidney disease is one of the main comorbidities in these patients with posterior urethral valves. Classically, pop-off mechanisms have been described to be protective of renal function. We can define them as unilateral high-grade vesicoretinal reflux with ipsilateral renal dysplasia with a contralateral kidney involvement, urinoma, prenatal urinary ascites, big size vesical reticulum, and persistent erectus. We wanted to see if this loosening of the pressure in the bladder it was the real goal of this mechanism. So our main objective was to see if the presence of a pop-off mechanism was a protective factor for chronic renal disease, and secondarily to analyze if they were also protective factors for end-stage kidney disease, and also to see if patients' characteristics, comorbidities, or analytical parameters were predictive factors of chronic or end-stage renal disease. We performed a retrospective cohort study, patients with posterior urethral valves treated by endoscopic valve ablation in our hospital, and we with a minimum of 1 year follow-up. So maximum wear rate from August 2020. We included 70 patients who were seen in the outpatient clinic from January 2010 until August 2020. From these 70 patients, 14 of them had pop-off mechanisms and 56 did not. The pop-off mechanisms were mainly high-grade unilateral vesicoretinal reflux for the verticulums, 2 ascites, 1 urinoma, and we found no uretus. In 3 patients, they found more than 1 pop-off mechanisms, 2 with vesicoretinal reflux and verticulum, and 1 with urinoma. There were no differences regarding age or analytical parameters between the 2 groups. We
saw that the absence of pop-up mechanisms were developing chronic renal disease. And we also saw a tendency to protect from the need of renal replacement therapy. We performed a survival analysis free of chronic renal disease, and we saw that our patients with pop-up mechanisms, none of them developed chronic renal disease. Regarding the risk factors for chronic renal disease, we saw that the main one was creatinine, which is the lowest value of creatinine per year of life. We saw that for every unit higher, it increases the risk of developing chronic renal disease 15 times. We also performed a survival analysis free of renal replacement therapy, and we also saw again that no patients with pop-up mechanisms needed this kind of therapy. Regarding these and the risk factors for renal replacement therapy, there are not enough patients in our series to perform a multiple cystic progression, but we found that all patients with nadir creatinine greater than 0.69 ended up needing renal replacement therapy. So in conclusion, pop-up mechanisms act as protective factors from chronic renal disease. Nadir creatinine is a predictive factor of chronic renal disease and renal replacement therapy. We need a bigger sample to determine whether pop-up mechanisms protect from the need of renal replacement therapy. Thank you.
Is there any question? I think that we could talk further of the predictive factor for chronic renal failure and replacement therapy in valves. So we still need further follow-up and long-term follow-up to know whether seeing the kidney have proteinuria.
Just one question. You showed that when there is big reflux, it protects. Once you have resected the valves, at what moment would you consider to something for the reflux?
At what moment do you consider?
Well, would you keep the reflux lifelong to keep that protective mechanism, or would you treat it?
We analyzed it previously with the treatment of the endoscopic treatment of the valve. So we didn't check afterwards if the reflux is or not. But for sure, if both kidneys are affected, we will treat it.
In Wood syndrome, just to recall, Wood syndrome reflux has a protective effect for high pressure level. So unless symptomatic, the recommendation now are to leave it alone and not to do early nephrectomy in children with Wood syndrome. Yes.
Thank you. Can you answer your question, because we don't hear the answer from her? I would like to know your opinion on your question. When to treat those reflux?
What I was looking to, I think if we consider that reflux helps decrease the pressure in the bladder, maybe it is not necessary to treat early unless it is proving creating infections and so on.
Yes, and video studies are essential in such cases to determine whether you can do nephrectomy or not. But video studies are essential. So, thanks for the presentation, and I think we can close the section.
Thank you very much for